I was at the baby shower I'd organized myself for my best friend, Vanessa. The house was immaculate and full of people. Vanessa was at the center of it all, smiling, stroking her 6-month pregnant belly. Everything was perfect, until the doorbell rang. It was Jake, Vanessa's ex-boyfriend, the baby's father, the guy who had abandoned her while she was pregnant and vanished without a trace. Vanessa froze in the middle of the living room. She asked, her voice trembling, "What are you doing here?" Jake smiled and replied, "Well, I'm the baby's dad. I came for my kid's shower." Vanessa ran after Chad. But who was Chad? Just my husband. And I didn't feel angry. In fact, I thought it was incredible, because it was all part of my plan. But before I continue, let me go back a bit and tell you how it all started. My name is Claire, and I'm 32 years old. I met Chad in college. He was studying engineering. I was studying interior design. We dated for 2 years and had been married for 4. Chad is one of those by-the-book men. A suit every day, a perpetually clean car, a spreadsheet for everything. Together, we bought a beautiful house in a leafy suburb with a porch, a yard, and 3 bedrooms. My dream home. I met Vanessa in college too. We clicked and never let go. More than 10 years of friendship. We were inseparable. She was the person I called for everything. Fights with Chad, promotions at work, a new recipe that worked out, late-night confessions. She was my favorite person. Vanessa lived in a small apartment, 1 bedroom, a cramped living room, a tiny bathroom, and every time she came to my house, it was the same thing. She'd run her hand over the kitchen counter, look out at the backyard through the window, and sigh. "Claire, this house is amazing. Look at this space. Look at this light. I wish I had a house like this, but it seems like Jake has no ambition in life." I would laugh and say that one day she'd have an even bigger house, and that soon her boyfriend, Jake, would take the next step. Vanessa had been dating Jake for about 3 years. Jake was a programmer. He was very good at what he did, earned well, and was very intelligent. He always wore jeans, band t-shirts, and rode his bike to work. Vanessa hated that. We went out a lot together. The 4 of us dinners, weekend trips, barbecues at my house, and every time, without exception, Vanessa would find a way to compare. "Chad, you're always so elegant. You dress so well. Jake, couldn't you dress a little better?" And she'd give a little laugh. "Oh, Chad, what a beautiful car. Jake needs to trade his car in for a newer one, too." Jake pretended not to hear, but I could see it hurt. He'd smile crookedly and change the subject. I felt sorry for him, but Jake was just like that. A guy who did his own thing. He didn't care about others' opinions, didn't try to impress anyone. He lived his life his way and was fine with it. He preferred riding his bike to being stuck in traffic for an hour. He preferred living in a studio apartment near work to going into debt for a big apartment to impress visitors. He preferred comfortable clothes to suits and ties. Jake lived at his own pace, calm, unhurried, without ostentation. But Vanessa got irritated by this easygoing life. For her, it wasn't simplicity. It was a lack of ambition. She wanted more, always wanted more. At one point, I decided to get a tummy tuck. I wanted to feel better about my body. Chad supported me. I scheduled it at a renowned hospital. I had all the tests done. On the day of the surgery, Vanessa insisted on being there. She drove me, stayed with me in the waiting room, held my hand, wished me good luck. The perfect friend. I entered the operating room confidently, smiled at the anesthesiologist. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. That's the last thing I remember. When I opened my eyes again, I wasn't in a recovery room. I was in a room full of machines, wires, that heavy hospital smell. And I was alone, completely alone. My body wasn't obeying properly. I tried to move, but my arms and legs were heavy. With great effort, I managed to press the call button on the side of the bed. The nurse came in, and when she saw me, she stopped. Her eyes widened. She put her hand to her mouth. and ran out into the hallway, shouting a doctor's name. The doctor arrived, almost tripping, examined me, asked questions, shined a flashlight in my eyes. I was confused, scared, and could only ask, "Doctor, did the surgery go well?" He paused for a long time. One of those pauses where you know no good news is coming. "Claire, during the surgery, you had a severe reaction to the anesthesia. You suffered cardiac arrest, were resuscitated, but fell into a coma." I asked. "How long was I in a coma?" 14 months. 14 months. I stared at him, unable to speak. I spent over a year of my life sleeping. I walked into that operating room thinking I'd wake up in a few hours with a new belly, and woke up over a year later, not even knowing what day it was. An hour later, Chad arrived, rushing into the room, saw me sitting up, and started to cry. He hugged me carefully, trembling, repeating that he had prayed every day, that he never lost hope, that he loved me, that he missed me. I looked at him and felt a relief I can't even describe. The man I loved so much was there. He hadn't abandoned me, hadn't given up on me. He waited 14 months for me to open my eyes. At that moment, I could only think that the worst was over, that I would go home, go back to my life, to my routine, to my husband, that everything would be fine. I spent weeks in the hospital doing rehabilitation, physical therapy, tests, learning to walk again. Chad visited me every single day. Affectionate, attentive, overly present. But I noticed something different about him, an anxiety, a guilt in his eyes. But I attributed it to the shock. The man almost lost his wife, right? It's normal to be like that. One day, during a visit, I asked, "Chad, how's Vanessa?" He looked away, swallowed hard, scratched the back of his neck. "Vanessa, she's very busy, honey, but she sends her regards, always asks about you. More than 10 years of friendship, and the woman hadn't visited me after I woke up from a coma. I found it strange, but I was weak, tired, and didn't insist. After 2 months, I was finally discharged. Chad picked me up and took me home. On the way, he was acting strange, talking too much, laughing for no reason, drumming on the steering wheel, changing the subject himself. I watched everything silently. When I entered my house, I realized instantly that something was wrong. My house was unrecognizable. The living room walls were a shade of gray I would never choose. The furniture had been rearranged. There was a new rug, new curtains, paintings I had never bought. "Chad, what happened to the house?" "Oh, I gave it a refresh for you to come back to a brand new house. Do you like it?" I hadn't liked it at all. But I swallowed it and accepted it to avoid an argument. I went to the bathroom, opened the cabinet, and found a shampoo I'd never used, a different conditioner, and a women's deodorant. It wasn't my brand, but I knew that brand very well. "Chad, what are these products?" He appeared at the bathroom door with his hands in his pockets. "They're yours, my love. They've always been there," he replied, confused. I looked at him and didn't insist. I said, "Oh, right. I guess they are mine." And I smiled. But I had never used those products in my life. Never bought that conditioner. And that deodorant. I knew that brand very well. It was the brand Vanessa used. I knew because we shopped together, and she always picked up that same deodorant. Every time. Without fail. I waited for Chad to leave the bathroom, picked up the deodorant, turned it over, and looked at the manufacturing date printed on the bottom. 8 months ago. I was in a coma 8 months ago. I put it back in its place, slowly, and didn't say a word. Then I went to open my laptop in the living room. The screen lit up, and the login profile was Vanessa's. Her name, her photo, as if she owned that computer. "Chad, why is the laptop on Vanessa's profile?" "Oh, she came over one day and borrowed it to sort out some work stuff. Her laptop had crashed. She must have created a profile. Deodorant manufactured during my coma. Vanessa's profile on the laptop. The entire house redecorated. Chad nervous since I woke up. Vanessa who didn't show up at the hospital. Everything had an explanation. Everything had an excuse. All very convenient. All very neat. But I'm not stupid. I was putting together pieces of a puzzle I still didn't have the courage to assemble. So, I did what I do best. I kept quiet and decided to observe. A few days later, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and Vanessa was there. A huge smile, open arms, teary eyes. "Claire, my God, I can't believe you're on your feet." I prayed so much. "Friend, so much. You have no idea." She hugged me tightly. She swayed me back and forth, repeating that it was a miracle, that God was good, that she knew I would come back, and I was there, being hugged, thinking, prayed so much, but didn't show up once at the hospital after I woke up. When she pulled away, I looked down and saw Vanessa was pregnant. A belly of about 4 or 5 months, clearly visible under her blouse. "Vanessa, you're pregnant?" She stroked her belly and made a sad face, too rehearsed to be true. "I'm 4 months along. It's Jake's. How wonderful. But why the sad face? He abandoned me as soon as he found out about the pregnancy. He vanished. Doesn't answer. Doesn't reply. Blocked my number. I'm all alone." She wiped away a tear that I'm sure didn't exist. "Oh, friend, how horrible. But everything will be fine. You're strong." I hugged her again. I played my part perfectly. But inside I was doing the math. We went to the kitchen, and that's when I started paying real attention. Vanessa walked in as if she knew every corner, opened the fridge without asking, grabbed a bottle of water, and went straight to the bottom cabinet to get a glass. But in my house, before the surgery, the glasses had always been in the top cabinet. They had been moved during Chad's renovation, and Vanessa went to the new spot, without even thinking, without searching. Like someone who does it every day. I didn't say anything. I just observed. In the following days, Vanessa started showing up at my house with an unusual frequency. 3, 4 times a week, always with some excuse. "I brought you a cake. I stopped by to see how you're doing." I was nearby and decided to say hi. One afternoon, she sat next to me on the couch, made that face of someone about to deliver serious news, and held my hand. "Claire, I need to tell you something. I was in doubt whether to say it or not. But I think, as your friend, I have an obligation." "What happened?" "While you were in a coma, I saw Chad at a bar with some women, talking, laughing, very much at ease. I didn't want to worry you, but I think you should know. You deserve to know." She said it with such a well-feigned look of concern that it almost convinced me. Almost. But I already knew what she was doing. She was planting doubt in my head. She wanted me to distrust Chad, to fight with him, for the marriage to end, and then she would be there, ready to console everyone. Really? But it must be his colleagues from work. I trust my husband. He would never cheat on me. I said that on purpose. I wanted to see her reaction, and Vanessa did exactly what I imagined when I said he would never cheat on me. She laughed. It was a quick, almost imperceptible chuckle that she tried to hide with a little cough. But I saw it. In her eyes it was written in bold letters. "He did cheat on you, yes. And it was with me." It was a mix of mockery and pride, as if she held a secret that amused her, as if she knew something that I, the poor unfortunate who was in a coma, had no idea about. I quickly changed the subject. Vanessa seemed frustrated. She expected more reaction. She expected crying, shouting, irritation. But I gave her what she least expected. Tranquility. A few weeks after leaving the hospital, I decided to go to my old design office. I needed to know if I still had a job, if there was still a place for me there. I went in the morning, talked to my boss, and it was better than I expected. Everyone hugged me, asked how I was, celebrated. My boss said my position was waiting and I could come back whenever I wanted. I left feeling good for the first time in a long time. I stopped at a coffee shop on the way back. I was in line waiting for my coffee when someone called my name. "Claire." I turned around, and it was Jake. Band t-shirt, jeans, backpack on his back, exactly as always. He was wide-eyed. "You're awake?" My God, no one told me. "I woke up 3 months ago. I'm still recovering. What a relief. I heard about the coma and was very worried. I even thought about visiting you. But after Vanessa broke up with me, I just gave up. I stopped. Wait. Vanessa broke up with you?" "She did. 2 months after you went into a coma. We sat at a table, and Jake told me everything. I listened with a racing heart but kept a calm face. But Jake, Vanessa is pregnant, and she told me you abandoned her when you found out." Jake dropped his cup on the table, looked at me as if I had spoken in Chinese. "Pregnant with my child, Claire? I haven't seen Vanessa in over a year. She broke up with me by text, sent a message saying she had found a man worthy of her. After that, she blocked my number and vanished. We never saw each other again. A man worthy of her, that's what she wrote. Apparently, I was never good enough for her. I made the connections instantly. Vanessa broke up with Jake 2 months after my coma. Vanessa is now 5 months pregnant. I was in a coma for 14 months, her products in my bathroom. Manufactured during the coma, her profile on the laptop. The entire house redecorated, her knowing where the glasses were in the renovated kitchen. The guilt on my husband's face. Everything was fitting together. Every piece I had silently gathered in the past few weeks finally made sense. My suspicions were correct. I wanted to be wrong. I wanted everything to have an innocent explanation, but it didn't. The baby could be Chad's. I said goodbye to Jake and went home with a calm face and a heart on fire. That night, lying next to Chad while he slept, I stared at the ceiling. But I wasn't going to do anything impulsively. I needed absolute certainty. I needed to see with my own eyes. So, in the following days, instead of confronting, instead of screaming, instead of crying, I did the opposite. I paid more attention. I observed the dynamic between Vanessa and Chad. When they were in the same room, the air grew heavy. Chad avoided looking at Vanessa. He became tense, swallowed hard, crossed his arms as if protecting himself. Vanessa observed everything with a look that sent shivers down my spine. When Chad hugged me in front of her, when he called me my love, when he kissed my forehead, Vanessa looked at him with hatred, a disguised hatred. But hatred nonetheless. She looked like a teenager jealous of her boyfriend. She clenched her jaw, crossed her arms, rolled her eyes upwards, as if those scenes of affection between a husband and wife were a personal offense to her. And when she thought I was distracted, Vanessa changed completely. I could be with my back to her in the kitchen washing dishes, but I'd see her reflection in the cabinet glass. Vanessa would pass close to Chad and touch him. She'd run her hand over his thigh and his private parts under the table. She'd lean close to him to pick something up, making sure to show off her cleavage right in his face. And Chad would dodge every time. He'd stand up, turn red, swallow hard, and say, "I'm going to take a shower or I'm going to get some water," and practically run out. He knew it was wrong. He knew I was there. But what struck me most wasn't Chad fleeing. It was Vanessa's face when he fled. She wasn't frustrated. She was satisfied. She'd give a little smirk, as if to say, "He might run, but he was once mine." That smile of someone who knows something you don't, who has a power over your husband that you can't even imagine. Except I already imagined. I saw every touch, every glance, every escape of Chad to the bathroom, every poisonous little smile from her. They didn't notice, but I paid attention to everything. Every look, every gesture, every sigh. I was assembling the puzzle in silence. Now I was sure. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't insecurity from someone who had come out of a coma. It was real. And I wanted a divorce. But if I simply asked, it would be my word against his. I had no proof. No photos. No messages. No confession. Wait for the baby to be born and ask for a DNA test? And what judge would grant a DNA test order without any proof that my husband was the father? It could take months, years. No, I needed a confession. I needed to gather evidence. I needed a plan. But first, I was going to have a little fun with them, and I already knew exactly how. I started with Chad. It was a Thursday night. We were having dinner, just the two of us. And I waited for the right moment. Chad was relaxed, eating, talking about work. I took a sip of wine and casually dropped it, like commenting on the weather. "Oh, Chad, guess who I saw on the street last week? I forgot to tell you. Vanessa, with Jake." Chad stopped chewing. "With Jake?" "Yes, Jake." They were all lovey-dovey, holding hands, smiling. "I think they're back together. She hasn't mentioned anything to me yet. But good for her, right? At least the baby will have its father around." Chad dropped his fork on his plate, his jaw locked, his eyes hardened. He picked up his glass of water, took a long sip, and tried to look like he didn't care. "Really? That's good for her, isn't it?" They looked so happy. I saw Jake putting his hand on her belly. He finally accepted the pregnancy. Chad got up and took his plate to the sink. "I'm going to take a shower." I stayed alone at the table, sipping my wine, smiling inwardly. The seed was planted. Later that night, I passed by the living room and saw Chad sitting on the couch with his phone in his hand. He was typing, non-stop, irritated. He'd send a message. Wait, read the reply, frown, and send another. His finger hit the screen hard, as if he was arguing with someone via text. "Everything okay, Chad?" He immediately hid his phone, turned the screen face down, and tossed it on the couch. "Everything's fine. Just work stuff, work stuff." At 11 at night, with that look of someone who wants to kill someone. Okay. I knew exactly who he was talking to and exactly what he was asking. Probably something like, "Is this baby really mine, Vanessa? Or were you making a fool out of me this whole time?" And Vanessa on the other end, desperate, trying to convince him that the baby was his and that she and Jake hadn't gotten back together. The seed I planted at dinner was already sprouting. The next day, Vanessa showed up at my door unannounced. She rang the doorbell with her usual forced smile, but I saw that she wasn't there to visit me. She was there to fish for information. She wanted to know if I knew anything, if Chad had said anything. But she couldn't ask directly, otherwise I would find out that she and Chad were talking. So I didn't give her time to think. As soon as she sat down, I blurted out, "Friend, I need to vent. Chad has an idea in his head that I don't know what to do about." "What idea?" "He wants to move. He wants to go live near his parents." "His parents? But don't his parents live on the other side of the country?" "Exactly. He wants to sell the house and move as soon as possible. Says he wants to be close to his family. He's even researching properties there." Vanessa fell silent. I saw all the emotions flash across her face like a highway billboard. Shock, anger, fear, despair. She must have been thinking that Chad wanted to pick fights with her, question the baby's paternity, create excuses to distance himself. All of this to escape her and start a new life far away. With his wife, leaving her behind, pregnant, alone. Before she could process it, I switched to another topic, changed my tone, gave a shy little smile, and lowered my voice as if to tell a secret. "And friend," changing the subject, "Chad and I are, how shall I say, reconnecting." "Reconnecting?" "Yes, girl. Since I came out of the coma, he's been super affectionate, super present, and we're, every day. Sometimes 3 times a day. We're even planning to have a child. Our sex life has never been so good. I think the coma scare made him appreciate me more, Vanessa turned red. Really red. The hand holding the coffee cup squeezed so hard that her knuckles turned white. She tried to smile, tried to say, "That's good for you guys." But what came out was a choked murmur that convinced no one. What she didn't know was that since I woke up from the coma, Chad and I hadn't been intimate once. I still didn't feel comfortable with it. My body was still recovering. My mind was still processing everything. But Vanessa didn't need to know that. To her, the man who had slept with her for months was now having sex with his wife 3 times a day and planning to have a child. And on top of that, he wanted to sell the house and flee to the other side of the country. I drank my coffee, looking at her with the most innocent face in the world. Vanessa was destroyed inside, and I was loving every second. At that moment, the front door opened. Chad walked in, dropped his keys on the console table, and when he saw Vanessa sitting on the couch with me, he froze. He stood still at the entrance to the living room with his work briefcase in his hand, not knowing what to do with his body. Vanessa looked at him. It wasn't a friendly look. It was that look of hatred I already knew. Only this time it was worse. This time there was hurt, jealousy, and anger mixed in. Chad looked away immediately. "Hi, Chad," Vanessa said with a dry voice. "Hi," he replied, without looking at her. "I didn't know you were here." The atmosphere grew heavy, the two of them there in my living room pretending there was nothing between them, while I sat in the middle, smiling as if the world was a wonderful place. Vanessa got up from the couch and picked up her purse. "Well, I have to go. I've taken up too much of your time, Claire." "Wait, Vanessa. Before you go, I had an idea. What do you think about having your baby shower here at my house? I'll organize everything. Decorations, food, guests. You don't have to worry about a thing." Vanessa looked surprised. "No, Claire. You don't have to. Seriously, it's too much work." Chad, who was heading to the kitchen, turned around and said, "Yes, Claire. It's a lot for you to organize. You still need to rest." I thought to myself, "Oh, how cute." Both of them agreeing. Both of them worried about me. How sweet. "Guys, I'm fine. I insist." "Vanessa, it's your first child. We have to celebrate." "I insist. After all, you're my best friend. It'll be here at my house. It'll be beautiful. I promise. And you just need to look pretty." I won't take no for an answer. Vanessa looked at Chad. Chad looked at the floor. Neither of them had an argument. "Okay, Claire, if you insist." "I do. You're going to love it. You'll see." Vanessa gave a weak smile. Chad went upstairs without saying anything, and I heard the shower turn on. I walked Vanessa to the door and said with the biggest smile in the world, "Now I'm going to go give my husband some love, while he's in the shower." I winked and closed the door. The face Vanessa made was priceless. In the following days, the routine repeated itself. Every night, Chad on the couch with his phone, typing like crazy, sending message after message with that look of someone at their limit. Work stuff. Always the same excuse. They were fighting. I didn't need to read the messages to know. I saw the anger on Chad's face when he put down his phone. And the funniest thing about all this was that neither of them could confront me about what I had told the other. Chad couldn't come to me and ask, "Claire, is it true that you told Vanessa I want to move states and that we have sex 3 times a day?" Because then I would ask him, "And how do you know what I talk about with Vanessa? Are you two talking?" And Vanessa couldn't come to me and ask, "Claire, why did you tell Chad you saw me with Jake all lovey-dovey?" Because then I would ask her, "Vanessa, how did you find out about that?" I only told Chad. To ask meant to reveal themselves. It meant admitting that the two of them were talking, discussing intimate things. So, neither of them opened their mouths. It was the perfect trap, one accusing the other without being able to confirm anything. Chad, probably saying that baby wasn't his, that she was going back with Jake. Vanessa, probably accusing Chad of wanting to run away from his responsibilities, of wanting to abandon his child, of reconnecting with his wife and wanting to disappear to the other side of the country, and the only person who could confirm or deny everything was me. But they would never ask me. They would swallow the doubt, keep thinking that one was lying to the other to manipulate, and they would each stay in their corner, corroding inside. And I in the middle, drinking my coffee, smiling, asking Chad if he wanted more sugar. After that, Vanessa disappeared. She didn't show up unannounced like before, and when I called inviting her for coffee or lunch, she always had an excuse. I'm feeling nauseous. I have a doctor's appointment. Not today, friend. The woman who used to come to my house 4 times a week now barely answered the phone, but the baby shower was in full swing. I organized everything with a care Vanessa didn't deserve, but that the guests would remember. Impeccable decorations, a dessert table, personalized favors. I invited everyone she knew. Friends, family, acquaintances, neighbors, colleagues from work, college friends. The more people, the better. But the main piece was missing. I picked up my phone and called Jake. Jake answered on the second ring. Claire, everything okay? Everything, Jake. I need your help. Did something happen? A lot has happened. After we met at the coffee shop, I started paying attention to everything, and I'm sure now, the baby is Chad's. Vanessa got involved with him while I was in a coma. She moved into my house, lived my life. She's telling everyone the baby is yours and that you abandoned her pregnant. Jake was silent for a few seconds. When he spoke, his voice was heavy. I figured it was that. After our conversation, I kept thinking, and everything made sense. A man worthy of her. It was Chad. It was, "What do you need me to do, Claire?" I explained the plan. "Count on me, Claire. I'll be there." The big day of the baby shower arrived. My house was immaculate. Decorations in shades of yellow and white, tables set, ambient music. Guests arrived, smiling, complimenting. "Claire, how thoughtful. Everything is beautiful." Vanessa was radiant in the middle of the living room, receiving gifts, taking pictures, stroking her belly. Chad was in a corner, beer in hand, forced smile. Every now and then he looked at Vanessa with that hard look I already knew. The seed I planted was still there, growing. I looked at my watch, took a deep breath, and smiled. The doorbell rang. I went to open it. Jake was there wearing jeans, a t-shirt, and sneakers, super relaxed. He looked at me, gave a minimal, almost imperceptible nod, and walked in. Vanessa had her back to us, laughing with some guests. When she turned and saw Jake standing in the middle of the room, her laughter died. The color drained from her face. The glass in her hand trembled. "Jake!" Her voice came out weak, almost a whisper. "What are you doing here?" Jake put his hands in his pockets and replied with the utmost calm. "Well, I'm the baby's dad. I came for my kid's shower." Some guests smiled. "Oh, he's the dad." A few clapped. Vanessa looked like she was going to throw up. She put her glass down on the nearest table and went to Jake with quick steps, grabbing his arm, trying to pull him into the hallway. "Jake, for God's sake, go away. You shouldn't be here." "Why not?" "You told everyone the baby is mine. You told everyone I abandoned you. So I came. Do you want me to leave, or do you want me to stay? You have to decide, Vanessa." Chad had already noticed the commotion. I saw the exact moment he started walking towards them. My heart pounded, but I kept calm. I kept arranging the napkins on the table as if the world wasn't on fire. Chad stood close, about 6 feet away, to hear the conversation. Vanessa didn't see him. Jake did. And Jake, looking Vanessa in the eyes, spoke in a clear, firm, calculated tone. "Vanessa, this child is mine. I want to be a present father." Chad heard every word. I saw his face change, his jaw clenched, his nostrils flared. He took a step back, ran his hand over his face, and I knew that for him, everything was confirmed. The baby wasn't his, it was Jake's. Vanessa had lied to him all this time. Vanessa turned and saw Chad there. They looked at each other. Despair filled her face. Chad didn't say anything. He turned his back and walked away, moving through the guests as if he needed air. Vanessa went after him, almost running, dodging chairs and tables, trying to catch up. She got close and grabbed his arm. Chad pulled his arm back and kept walking. Vanessa went after him again, managed to get in front of him, and started talking low, fast, gesticulating. Chad looked away, shook his head, tried to get away. Vanessa wouldn't let him, held him, pulled him, put herself in front of him. The guests started to notice. The conversations died out one by one. The smiles faded. 40-something people looking at those two in a corner of the living room, whispering in an argument no one understood. Why was Vanessa arguing with her best friend's husband? What was happening? Chad tried to pull away one last time and turned his back, and Vanessa, in desperation, yelled, "The child is yours, Chad! I swear!" Her voice echoed through the entire room. Chad stopped, turned slowly. His face was pure shock, mouth open, eyes wide, as if he couldn't believe she had just yelled that in front of everyone. He didn't expect that from her. Absolute silence. The kind of silence where you can hear your own heart beating. 40-something people frozen with their glasses in the air, their eyes wide. No one breathed. And then, one by one, heads turned, from Vanessa to Chad, from Chad to me. And the realization dawned. Chad was my husband. Vanessa was my best friend. I had been in a coma for 14 months, and while I was in a hospital fighting for my life, my husband was with my best friend, and now she was pregnant with his child. A woman put her hand to her mouth. Another dropped her plate. An elderly lady sitting down looked at Chad and said loudly, "What a shame, young man!" Someone cursed. Someone started to cry. The party atmosphere turned into a funeral in 2 seconds. And I gave the performance of my life. My eyes widened. My hand trembled. I brought my hand to my mouth and took a step back, as if I had been slapped across the face. My voice came out in a whisper. "Chad, is what she said true?" Chad looked at me and couldn't speak. He opened his mouth, closed it. His hands trembled. He tried to take a step towards me, and I recoiled. The guests came towards me, hugged me, sat me down, gave me water. Poor Claire. She was in a coma. In a coma? What kind of friend does something like that? And him, the husband. What kind of man does that? Vanessa stood alone in the middle of the living room, with her 6-month pregnant belly and the look of someone who finally understood what she had just done. She confessed everything in front of everyone, at the baby shower that the betrayed woman herself organized for her. Jake, who had been standing in the middle of the room all this time, also played his part. His eyes widened. He took a step back and said loudly for everyone to hear, "This child is not mine." Another layer of shock. The guests looked from one to the other, not knowing whom to console first. Jake continued, "The baby's father is your best friend's husband?" Vanessa tried to speak, but no one wanted to listen. She opened her mouth, and someone cut her off. Chad tried to explain. He stammered something about being alone, about the coma, about me eventually waking up, about it being a mistake. One of the guests pointed a finger in his face. A mistake? The woman was in a coma, Chad. In a coma, fighting for her life. And you with her best friend. Another stood up. And you. Vanessa. What kind of friend is that? The woman almost died. And you took advantage to steal her husband? I don't want a friend like that near me. Vanessa tried to defend herself. She said it wasn't like that. That things had just happened. That no one planned anything. But every word that came out of her mouth made the situation worse. The guests didn't want explanations. Vanessa's mother, who was sitting in a corner, turned white, put her hand to her chest, tried to stand up, and fainted. She fell from the chair to the floor. 2 women ran to help her. Someone shouted to get water. Someone shouted to call an ambulance. The baby shower turned into chaos. In the middle of all that confusion, someone grabbed my arm and took me to my bedroom. "Come on, Claire. You don't need to see this." They sat me on the bed, gave me water, and stroked my hand. From outside, I heard raised voices. People telling Chad to leave. People telling Vanessa to give me space. People crying. People cursing. Give Claire some space. Get these two out of here. And I sat there on the bed with a glass of water in my hand and the most convincing, devastated look I had ever made in my life. In the following days, the confessions spread like wildfire. Everyone knew, and I had plenty of witnesses. I filed for divorce on grounds of adultery. Chad appeared at my door 3 days later. Red eyes, unshaven. He didn't look like the suit-wearing engineer Vanessa admired so much. Claire, please, listen to me. What do you want, Chad? I don't want a divorce. I love you. You're the woman of my life. Vanessa was a mistake. It was a slip. A moment of weakness that I regret every day of my life. A slip that got pregnant. I know. She tricked me. Said she was on the pill. And it happened. But I was alone, Claire. You were in a coma. The doctors didn't know if you would come back. I went to the hospital every day and sat next to someone who didn't move, who didn't speak, who didn't breathe on her own. And Vanessa would show up here, keep me company, bring food, and she came on to me. I was weak. I admit I was. But I love you. You let her move into my house, Chad. You let her paint my walls, move my furniture around, use my things, sleep in my bed, while I was dying in a hospital. You two were playing house in my home. I know there's no excuse. There isn't. Trust died, Chad. And without trust, there's no marriage. I won't go back on my decision. He left my house crying. That was the last conversation I had with him in person. With the public confession and 40-something witnesses, my lawyer had no difficulty at all. I kept the house and a generous alimony. Chad lost everything. The house, his wife, his reputation. And guess who he blamed? Vanessa. He said she destroyed his life. That if she hadn't shown up, none of that would have happened. Chad didn't want anything to do with Vanessa anymore. They didn't stay together. Today I live in my house alone. I went back to my own decor, my colors, my paintings. I resumed my clients, went back to work, rebuilt my life piece by piece. Jake became a true friend after all that. We started meeting for coffee. Then it turned into dinner. Then movies. Then, well, you can imagine. The programmer in jeans and band t-shirts that Vanessa thought wasn't enough ended up being the best company I could have. One day, Jake and I were having dinner at a restaurant when his phone rang. He looked at the screen and his eyes widened. He showed me. Vanessa, answer it, I said, and put it on speaker. Jake answered and put the phone between us on the table. Jake. Hi, it's Vanessa. Hi, Vanessa. What's up? I saw on your Instagram that you're with Claire. I needed to call you because I worry about you, Jake. I always worried. Jake looked at me and suppressed a laugh. You worry about me? That's good. Jake, I need to tell you something. Claire, she's not who you think she is. She always talked bad about you behind your back. She said you dressed poorly, had no ambition, that you rode a bike because you didn't have money for a car. She laughed at you, Jake. Laughed at your band t-shirts, your hair, your style. I always defended you. Always. She's with you just to get to me. I put my hand to my mouth to keep from bursting out laughing. It was impressive. Everything she was saying was exactly what she had always said about Jake. Word for word. She was trying to invert it. Put the things that came out of her mouth into mine. Trying to turn Jake against me so he would leave me and go back to her. Jake looked at me with that smirk and said, Vanessa, how interesting. Oh, let me tell you, you're on speakerphone. Silence. I leaned into the phone and said, Hi, Vanessa. I just wanted to tell you that Jake is much more fun than boring old Chad. He's funny, makes me laugh. We go biking together and he doesn't complain about traffic. I loved making the switch, you know? Highly recommend. The phone went silent for 3 seconds. Then hung up on us. Jake and I looked at each other and started laughing. That hearty laugh, stomach hurting, tears streaming, banging on the table. The waiter looked concerned. We apologized and ordered more wine. Vanessa ended up alone. Without a friend, without my husband, without my house, without anyone, with a beautiful baby to raise alone. Chad pays child support and takes the child for weekend visits. But it's far, far from what Vanessa imagined it would be. No big house, no suit-wearing husband, no perfect life. I don't wish ill on the child. He's innocent in all this. But the mother chose every step she took. She left a good man because she wanted something better. She stole her best friend's husband while she was in a coma. Sometimes I wonder what they wanted after all. What was the plan? Was Chad going to leave me when the baby was born? Or was he going to stay with both of them, one at home and one in the apartment? Or worse, did Chad think I would never wake up, that I would die in that hospital bed, and he would go on with my best friend in my house, as if I had never existed? Honestly, I don't know. And I don't think they knew either. I don't think either of them thought that far ahead. They just lived in the moment, pushing things along, pretending the day of reckoning would never come. But it came, and it came with invitations, balloons, and sweet treats. But you know what's funny? I went into that surgery wanting to change my body. I spent 14 months sleeping, and when I woke up, the body that changed was the one next to me. I lost a belly and gained a boyfriend who rides his bike to work, a house all my own, and the best story to tell at a dinner party. The other day, Jake came home with a new t-shirt. I looked at it and started laughing, printed on the front in big letters. I found someone worthy of me. I love this man. And literally speaking, I finally woke up to life. If you made it this far, post "woke up" in the comments so I know you watched until the end. Thank you so much for staying with me this far. I hope you enjoyed the story. Don't forget to leave a like below. It seems small, but it helps the channel grow a lot. Subscribe too and activate the bell to not miss any news. A big kiss, and see you next time.